Hello and welcome to Fight News Now. I'm John Pollock. It's a very sad day in the world of mixed martial arts, as today we are mourning the loss of former UFC heavyweight champion Kevin the Monster Randleman, who passed away on Thursday at the age of 44. We're going to be discussing the life and legacy of Kevin Randleman with John Ramdeen and Robin Black. We'll also be taking a look at the media day that went down in Los Angeles involving middleweights Anderson Silva and Michael Bisping ahead of their fight coming up at the end of the month. As well, taking a look at a big announcement made by UFC Fight Pass and acquiring the K1 library. Stay tuned. It's Fight News Now, and it's coming your way now. I'm here with John Ramdeen and Robin Black, and as we said off the top, starting on a very sad note, and that is with the passing of Kevin Randleman, the former UFC heavyweight champion. And before we discuss some of the highlights of his career, we're going to take a look back at Kevin Randleman's career. The sport of mixed martial arts lost an iconic figure on Thursday night as former UFC and Pride heavyweight standout Kevin Randleman passed away from heart failure after being hospitalized with pneumonia. Randleman was an integral part of the golden era of heavyweights back in the 90s. A former standout wrestler at Ohio State University, Randleman captured 2 NCAA Division I titles before transitioning over to mixed martial arts in 1996. A hulking heavyweight known for his power and athleticism, Randleman first captured championship gold in 1999 when he won the coveted heavyweight championship from Pete Williams. The Monster would go on to take part in some of the most memorable fights of his generation, scoring wins over established stars such as Maurice Smith, Pedro Hizzo, Babalu Sobral, and Mirko Cro Cop along the way. He is perhaps best remembered, however, for his willingness to fight the best in the world and a notable moment against then undisputed heavyweight great Fyodor Emelianenko. Paired up with the legendary Russian at Pride Critical Countdown 2004, Randleman would suplex the champion head first into the canvas in a moment that won't be soon forgotten by fans. But Randleman was more than just a brute force inside the ring, a legitimate player in the heavyweight division. He was also a husband and proud father who leaves behind 4 children. Kevin Randleman was just 44 years old. So Kevin Randleman, this was one that surprised a lot of people on Thursday night because it was very much unexpected. He had not been ill, but suffering from pneumonia, and then it was heart failure that Jeremy Botter first reported on Thursday night. Kevin Randleman is someone that was one of the best athletes that we've ever seen come into mixed martial arts. And as we look there, I mean, a guy that just had freakish abilities, and realizing some of that in the UFC, of course, had that famous fight with Bas Rutten that was one of the most disputed at the time, that Bas won with a split decision, and then it was Bas leaving the company and the title was decided with Pete Williams and Kevin Randleman winning that fight to win the championship. But always someone, guys, that I think we can agree he had all of this potential, and I don't feel it was all realized in the sport.
Yeah, I agree 100%, but one thing it's certainly realized if you go on social media is his impact with the entire mixed martial arts community. People that knew Kevin Randleman spoke very, very highly of this individual. Mark Hominick, as a matter of fact, said he's we lost one of the good guys. And I had the chance to talk to Kevin Randleman a few years ago at a show here in Ontario. And the show was a very, very small show. It was kind of a setup show for some of these youngsters to get experience in mixed martial arts. Chad Laprise was on the card. Chris Clements was on the card. And afterwards, there wasn't a whole lot of media there. So Kevin Randleman just talked to all the fighters openly and to the promoters discussing how important these grassroots shows are and the importance of these athletes. Just a tremendous individual, and of course the sport lost a true legend and a pioneer.
Yeah, Randleman became like an honorary Canadian because of his connection to Sean Tompkins, who's probably training him up there right now. He's probably got the mitts out. And, you know, so as a result, he was family with Hordesky and Hominick and Sam Stout and Sean. So he was connected to Canada, but he was connected to a lot of people. Randy Couture wrote something beautiful. And he's one of these guys, that first real crop, that crop of superheroes, you know, that the fighters now all kind of grew up falling in love with, grew up trying to emulate. And his fingerprints will be all over fighting forever, along with all of those big, powerful wrestlers, that Hammer House kind of way of thinking that started out early, being able to drive in, blast your way in, and not only out-wrestle a guy and put him down and smash him, but be willing to push yourself to the limit because of your belief that you would push him into such, and probably this is where the original deep waters terms were coined, push this guy in so deep that, hey, it's just a test to see who's tougher and who can handle it more.
I think what's also interesting about it is Kevin Randleman, a part of that. We now, when we think about mixed martial arts, when we think about coaches and trainers, you think about the American kickboxing academies and the ATTs and the TriStars. And well, Kevin Randleman with Mark Coleman, those guys were one of the first crop of fighters that put together these super teams. And, you know, we saw Dan Severn, he was a wrestler who came into mixed martial arts, but it wasn't until we saw Mark Coleman and Kevin Randleman who displayed a different level of athleticism. And there you see, I think it was Igor Vovchanchyn there with Coleman, but with Kevin Randleman, one of the things that was quite remarkable is how he added that athleticism, that different level. His vertical, I don't think is anybody can touch it today, but I think you look at that Fedor suplex, that's clearly going to be one of the highlights. But I look back, I think it was Pride 23 when he faced Yamamoto and those ridiculous knees. I think they called them the skyscraper, and here they are right now. It's something I don't think had ever been seen before. We know knees were available, but you see the top control of Randleman and the fact that he is just so destructive with these things. And then you'll see the double one here.
Oh, no, please don't do that. And even the terms ground and pound sort of originated around that era of guys, because a big wrestler would take a guy, smash him to the ground, and then what do? We pound him. And that carries all the way through. You don't have to look very far to find a guy at every step. You go to Matt Hughes or Randy Couture, anybody around that kind of next step. Matt Hughes basically took that same principle that you saw of out wrestling guys, pushing them to the limit, taking them to the ground and smashing them up. And it's been carried on ever since.
There's also his collegiate career, which was quite something. I mean, a two-time NCAA Division I champion, three-time All-American, and then he left school for his senior year, didn't even wrestle that fourth year rather. And you look at, had he pursued that, I mean, this guy very well could have gone to the Olympics in 1996 and ended up finding himself going to mixed martial arts that same year and doing those one-night tournaments in Brazil before eventually getting to the UFC. And of course, I think Pride is where a lot of people most associate him with because of those famous fights, the win over Mirko Cro Cop, and then nearly doing it the same against Fyodor Emelianenko. I mean, for my money, that call of him stopping Mirko Cro Cop, you could say that was the most famous call in MMA history. It's one of the most symbolic.
Yeah, I have to agree, and it's another thing that, and here it is.
Yeah, if you listen.
Who would have guessed that? Has Cro Cop on his back. It's over. It's over. It's over. Unbelievable.
You're right, that's one of the great calls, and it's one of the great moments.
And another thing about Randleman is he brought that pro wrestling element where, you know, mixed martial arts was starting to develop. We saw, you know, you go back to the early days of the UFC, it was style versus style, and then the experiment started working itself out, and Randleman brought a new element to the game with the dyed hair and the whole monster character. So again, there's so many reasons why people should, you know, look back fondly on the career of Kevin Randleman.
Yeah, the pro wrestling element, the wrestling, the innovating for other wrestlers to go into MMA for a living, and on and on and on. Kevin Randleman, and just being a great guy that everybody loved. Kevin Randleman will definitely be remembered.
Yes, and we definitely send our condolences to his friends and family. Kevin Randleman was 44 years of age. A Fight Network programming note, we are going to be back on February the 27th with tons of coverage that day for the Anderson Silva Michael Bisping Fight Night card from London, kicking off at 3 p.m. Eastern Time with a preview show and then airing here on Fight Network.